When I talk to a person who is grieving, routinely I point them to the Psalms. The Psalms are a rich treasury for every child of God. Many of them are psalms of lament from a person's heart individually before God. Some of the psalms are community lament, and they are a pouring out of one's heart before the Lord. And I'm drawn often to Psalms like 130, Psalm 130, where we're thinking about waiting on the Lord, and we say, "Oh Lord, don't forget me." And we look at Psalm 56, where we are reminded that God sees our tears as valuable. He catches them in his bottle. The writer uses that analogy that God is so close to us that even as we shed tears, he is near enough to value and see our prayers and to catch them. The nearness of God. I think of the book of Lamentations, which is a 5-chapter lament, as Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, has his heart torn apart as a prophet of God. He's not a warrior, and he sees his country being torn apart. I think of the folks in Ukraine and Russia right now who are seeing terrible things take place, and many who can do nothing. And that was Jeremiah's position. And so he wrote a lament, and he pours out his heart, seeing the city he loves and the country he loves in shambles and people hurt. And there in the middle, we often turn to, in the middle of chapter 3, where Jeremiah remembers the steadfast love of the Lord, as well he should. But that isn't the only part of Lamentations we should look to. We should remember the lament part. But the Psalms of David certainly would be one rich place that I would send a person grieving to take a look at. The other thing I would remind people to do who are grieving is to go again and walk with Jesus through the Gospels and see his compassion for people. Jesus stepped alongside hurting people with profound care, people who had made terrible mistakes, people who had blown it, people who were unclean, and he touched them. He drew near. And I love the nearness of Christ to hurting people. And so even in times when people ask questions like, why? I don't understand. The Bible doesn't give quick and cheap answers. Sometimes we try to do that, and it's not very helpful. But really to point grieving people to Christ, who is God with skin on, so to speak, who draws near in our sadness and loneliness and walks alongside and cares for our wounded and broken hearts. This is so good for people. But we come to him, we point our feet toward Christ, and we come near, and we receive his mercy and his grace to help us in our time of need.